50,000 men marched into the Egyptian desert, not for war, not for conquest, not for survival. They marched to silence one sentence spoken in the wrong direction, a shrine, an oracle, a mouth that said no. They entered the West as an army. They never came back as anything. There were no bones, there were no shields, there were no footprints because the ground decided footprints were unnecessary data. This wasn't disappearance. This was file corruption. 524 BC, Cambyses II had crushed Egypt so thoroughly the pharaoh didn't even get a death, just a deletion. Everything obeyed him except a place so small it shouldn't have mattered. Siwa. The oracle of Amun said, with the casual confidence of a god that knows distance isn't protection, Cambyses is not a true king. He didn't hear prophecy. He heard laughter coming from coordinates he didn't control. So he sent 50,000 men. The desert didn't react. It adjusted. Cambyses, a man whose shadow was afraid of him. Cambyses didn't rule. He dissected. Cyrus stitched the world together. Cambyses opened the seams to see what was breathing beneath them. He trusted fear. He trusted suspicion. He trusted the idea that everything existed for the purpose of insulting him. So when priests said a god outranked him, he didn't scream. That's the mistake of lesser tyrants. He simply exhaled, erased them. Not a command, a system reset. Thousands obeyed because their lives had already been converted into consumption units. They marched with weapons, water skins, tools. But the heaviest thing they carried was a belief. Reality recognizes us. They were about to meet something that didn't. The march where geography behaves incorrectly. They left the Nile at dawn. By midday, the Nile felt like a memory written by someone else. Villages flickered into haze, then into light, then into the suspicion they had never existed. The oases shrank as if the desert was tasting them. Heat didn't rise. Heat leaned. Sunlight didn't shine. Sunlight targeted. Every step forward felt like walking into a place the world had not finished rendering. At night, the dunes moved. Not drifted, not shifted, moved. Like choices being reconsidered. Footprints appeared where no feet had been. Shadows stretched into directions that geometry did not approve of. Men felt breath on their necks. Not wind, breath, no source. On the third night, laughter returned. No mouths moved. The desert had decided it wanted that sound. The desert was no longer setting. It was participant. The vanishing. When location fails beyond Karga, the guide stopped leading and started guessing. The land flattened into a single continuous now. Distance pretended to exist. Direction pretended to matter. Reality pretended to hold. Then the wind arrived. Not a breeze, a decision tree collapse. The ground vibrated like a system clearing its cache. The horizon folded. Sky sank. Up and down became optional. Ropes between soldiers jerked. Weight, no relevance. Not because they snapped, but because the men tied to them were no longer part of the local data set. Voices failed to transmit. Words evaporated before reaching the next skull. Breathing downgraded from instinct to audition. Sand didn't swirl. It translated sideways like walls closing in a language the body wasn't designed to understand. Shapes flickered in the blur. Rows of tall, still forms. Not men, not statues. Something like the memory of a structure trying to remember its own edges. No one had time to scream. The storm didn't rage. It edited its input. Then, like a switch toggled, everything stopped. Instantly. No aftermath. No debris, no partial failure, just a perfectly level surface, like reality had overwritten the scene with a blank template. 50,000 men weren't killed. They were unrendered. The desert did not hide them. It declined their existence. Aftermath. Cambyses learns the world doesn't care. Cambyses sent search parties. He still believed in distance, cause, effect, consequence, old rules. They followed the route, sky, sand, heat, nothing else. No bones, no fabric, no fragments. Just a clean, intentional absence. Egypt said Amun punished arrogance. Persians blamed weather. The desert wrote no opinion. When Cambyses heard the report, something inside him burst. He attacked priests, smashed idols, stabbed the Apis bull while screaming at gods that refused to return the call. Not madness, just a man clawing at the edges of a system that no longer displayed his input. Weeks later, Cambyses died. Not dramatically, not symbolically. He simply stopped being necessary. His empire kept going, but with a quiet new border, places where even memory chooses not to remember. Theories, logic trying to patch a hole in reality. People tried filling the narrative void. Sandstorm? Sandstorms bury. This one erased. Ambush? Ambushers leave debris and bodies, and footprints, and themselves. Lost route? Scattered deaths leave clues. Ash, bones, something. Here, the only artifact is no artifact. Human logic collapses at nothing. It tries theories, maps, excuses. The desert does not participate. It is comfortable with emptiness. The searches. Humans repeat mistakes until they run out of them. Centuries later, explorers kept walking into the same void. Bones after storms? Gone. Metal shapes spotted by pilots? Gone. Satellite mapping? No anomalies, no tracks, no artifacts. Just a horizon that refuses to store foreign information. Every search ends the same way. A human standing in an infinite silence, holding tools that suddenly feel stupid, staring at a landscape that acknowledges nothing but itself. The Sahara does not hide secrets. It survives them. The last moments. What it feels like to stop existing. Imagine one soldier, not important, not named, just present. He grips the rope tied to the camel ahead, a tether to continuity. The wind hits, rope jerks. He holds. It jerks again. Then something goes wrong. The rope isn't slack, isn't tight, isn't anything. It's connected to a point that no longer renders. He shouts. The sound dies in his own mouth. Not swallowed, not generated. Breathing becomes a request with no guarantee of approval. His skin feels like a conceptual outline. He raises his hand in front of his face. There is no hand, not darkness, not invisibility, just no data. He closes his eyes. The world does not change. His panic dissolves, not comfort, not surrender. Just the realization that panic is pointless when the system has already removed your file. He does not fall. He does not die. He simply fails to be referenced. When the storm ends, the sand is smooth, nothing to clean. There never was. Legacy. The army that proved the world sometimes says no. Cambyses' lost army should have left scars, ruins, bones, debris, proof. Instead, their monument is a blank field. Herodotus wrote the whispers. The desert wrote nothing. Together, they form a truth that rulers spend their lives trying not to learn. Power ends. Memory corrupts. Reality keeps only what it wants. It didn't want them. This is the lost past, where stories don't conclude, they are excluded. And the most terrifying thought is this: whatever removed them did not act once. It acted correctly, and it has not stopped.